learned to sew when I was in junior high. Between 4-H and home ec, or family consumer science it is called nowadays, and with lots of help from my mother and both grandmothers, I learned how to make clothes. That skill came in really handy early in our marriage. I wanted my girls to have the same frilly dresses and fun outfits as other kids, but we couldn't afford it, so I made them. I enjoyed choosing a pattern, the fabric, the trim, and buttons needed. It was a creative outlet for me, as well as filling a need and stretching the budget. I could spend hours making these clothes, gathering yards of fabric for ruffles, sewing on lace and putting in zippers. It was fun, and the reward was seeing the girls so happy and twirling around in their new dresses. Mending takes a similar skill set. You have to know how to use a needle and thread, and knowing how to use the sewing machine makes mending easier. When our kids were young, we couldn't afford to buy new outfits just because a button fell off or a seam ripped. For me, while sewing is fun, mending is not. There's something about mending that I do not like. I can put mending off for a very long time. I don't know if it's because it's a nuisance to round up the right color thread and a needle and the scissors for the 2-minute job of sewing on a button, or if it's the inconvenience of getting the sewing machine out for a job that will take less time to fix than to set up the machine. Whatever it is, I don't like mending, and I will put it off as long as possible until there is quite a pile of it to do. I would far rather start from scratch to make a brand new outfit than mend an old one. But mending is necessary. Most of us prefer new things, new clothes, new cars, new homes, new people, babies that haven't been damaged or worn down yet. But the reality is that we are surrounded by things in our lives, in our community, and in the world that can't be thrown away or discarded, but that need mending. Relationships are torn, feelings are hurt, hearts are broken, lives are shattered. People are treated poorly. There is injustice in the world, in our workplaces, maybe even in our homes. These things all need mending. Mending of this sort takes longer than it does to sew on a button. Mending lives and hearts and systems takes time, patience, compassion, and lots of love. My husband, Randy, does mending of another kind. Our kids would take a toy that was broken to their dad to fix, and sometimes there were lots of pieces to put back together. But Randy would get out the glue and patiently go to work, putting what was broken back together again, usually with the child anxiously watching to see if Daddy could really fix it. Sometimes things were beyond repair, but most of the time he could patch things back together. Our girls believe that their dad can mend anything. We live in a world with a lot of brokenness. Much mending is needed. Like a child watching their father fix a favorite toy, we watch to see what God will do. Do we believe that our Father can mend anything? How does God invite us to join in the process of mending? Take some time to answer the discussion questions, and I'll rejoin you when you have finished. My first career was accounting, and what I loved about accounting is that it was pretty clear-cut. Things were black and white, right and wrong. The correct answer is $1,295.39. Whereas in many other areas of life, the correct answer isn't all that obvious, and there may even be a range of acceptable answers. We find that there is much that is not clear-cut at all. Over the years, I both prepared and reviewed many accounting reconciliations. The idea of a reconciliation is to list the individual items that make up a larger balance. Depending on the account, most items should clear in a month or two, and if items linger, there is a problem. The item on the reconciliation indicates that something needs to be done. An invoice needs to be paid, a bill needs to be collected, a customer needs to be refunded, an error needs to be researched and corrected. Sometimes the amount can't be cleared in the normal course of things, and the only thing that can be done is to write it off, take the loss, let it go, and move on. Reconciliations done well take a lot of work and a lot of care. Relationships need to be reconciled as well. We can keep making a list of all the outstanding things that need to be cleared up, the angry words that were exchanged, the lack of appreciation for help that was given, acts of betrayal, love taken advantage of. There's a lot of things on that outstanding list, things that need to be cleared up, things that need to be forgiven and let go of, things that need to be mended. Forgiveness isn't always easy. It's easy to forgive young grandchildren. It's hard to forgive adults, especially when those who were supposed to love us the best are the ones that inflicted the pain. There is no doubt that I am sometimes the guilty party, the one in need of forgiveness, the one who needs to make amends. If God kept score, like we sometimes keep score, the reconciliation of my life would show a lot of outstanding items, things that need to be cleared up, times when I was not as kind and loving a daughter, a wife, a mother, a friend, a coworker, and a neighbor as I should have been. God takes a look at that list and says, I will trade you my son for this list. And just like that, God makes the debt disappear. None of us deserves that gift. God simply takes the loss and writes it off. God restores us to healthy relationship and brings us back to him. Then we who have been reconciled to God are sent off to be in a ministry of reconciling, to do the same thing God did for us, to offer forgiveness, to write off old debts, and to bring others back into relationship with God. This is not easy work. It is difficult to do. But I remember what Jesus did for me, and it gives me the courage to try and to pray for God's help to reconcile and to mend. I know that God can do for us what we cannot do for ourselves. This week, with God's help, forgive, reconcile, and mend with all your heart.